Welcome everyone to our weekly discussion show. So today's topic and this week's discussion topic is going to be piggybacking off of something that we talked in episode 30, which did drop on Wednesday. You guys should all go check that out. It was a great show between me and Blake. But what we did discuss is we're talking about UFC 249. And within talking about UFC 249, Blake was saying that we should just postpone the card. It's not worth having right now. And instead, we take a few months off pay-per-views and other fight events and just try to write this thing out. Try to see if the whole coronavirus pandemic is slowed down enough where we can have these live events and have an audience in the arenas and be able to put on the typical pay-per-view event. And when this does happen, since we're not going to fighting for a few months, when we have this return card, it is going to be a fairly stacked card, and it's going to be fights that we've all been waiting for, and it's fights that we could finally make happen. And it's a fight not only to reward the fighters for the wait, but to reward the fans for sticking with us and sticking with the UFC. And what we did is that we predict what this main event is going to look like. We give you 5 fights, and we're going to tell you exactly how this supposed main pay-per-view would look like if we do take that break and we get back to fighting. Today I'm joined by Blake Campbell once again, fourth and long UFC correspondent, and fourth and long co-host Jalen Johnson records to the mic for this show. Fellas, how you feeling with this one? I think we got this.
Oh, yeah.
I think we nailed this. But rolling on into what this main event would look like. The first fight of the night, the first card that would open up that main card is going to be Blake's favorite. It's going to be a bantamweight fight between Sugar Sean O'Malley, and now he's going to be taking a step into the top 15 by fighting a top 14, the 14th-ranked fighter, Marlon Vera. Blake, take it away.
Yeah, we kind of went back and forth on this fight before we got onto recording this podcast, but I felt like it was a good fit here because, in my opinion, he's just, I've said it many times before, he's a budding star. He hasn't hit his full star potential yet, but I feel if you put him on the right, on the right card in the right moment, and he shines, gets another TKO, gets another vicious KO victory or something like that, that could explode him into superstardom. And then the UFC has another cash cow on their hands. So I thought that it would be a really cool way to kind of open up the first main, because we're only doing main card for the first pay-per-view that comes back. So I think that this would be a really cool fight to open up on the main card. He has a lot of hype. He's delivered on his last few fights. So, I mean, why not just keep the train rolling?
I really like that. I think a part of the sentiment is his first fight, that return fight he had in the last pay-per-view, he was the main event of the prelims, and he had a phenomenal showing in that fight. Winning by knockout was like 4 minutes into the first round.
Yeah, it was pretty quick.
It was quick, and it was really good showcase himself of getting back into the swing of things after that 2-year suspension from USADA. Sugar Sean, he's not in the prelims anymore. They put him in the prelims with that one. It is a main event, that prelims, just because it's his return fight. He's going to have a lot of hype, but also a performer like him is going to be a great way to get that last minute kind of buys into their pay-per-view. Because, of course, the prelims are free, so they want to kind of have go fights on that to advertise, get more people to buy it at the last second. Great way to do that, but also with that performance, he was you could argue that he was a main carder before that return fight, but now he's without a doubt a main carder, and there's no way that I don't think he's on another prelim again pretty much for the foreseeable future, maybe the rest of his career, because this is a guy that a lot of people are predicting that is going to be a future champion, is going to be one of the bigger draws in the UFC potentially, and this is one of the guys that is supposed to take this fighting game by storm. And so to have him open up this main card against his first top 15 opponent, I think it's a great spot for him to be in.
Definitely.
Yeah.
I think my thing with Sugar Sean right now is I think I would I know it's still early on in his career. I think I would prefer to see him move up a weight to 135. I kind of want to see him over there at the featherweights. See how he goes against guys like Max Holloway and all them. That's kind of like the way I see his skill set and stuff. I think it's a little bit more exciting because, like, don't get me wrong, 125 is good weight. It's a strong division. And now I think it's taking time to get back to that strong. Mm-hmm. But I think 135 is kind of, might be a little bit better for him, especially pay-per-view buys wise and stuff like that for him. I think 135.
He is at 135.
Yeah, not 135. My bad. 145.
145. Yes,
my bad. I was trying to think of it in my head. I was like, something sounds wrong here. 145. I like to see him at 145. That 135. I mean, 135 it's a really good division for him right now. I think he can win a belt there, but I think if he really wants to, kind of get that boost in his fan base and stuff like that, I think if he moves up a division, goes to the 145ers, where there are some dogs in that 145-pound division. If he goes up there and handles his own against them, I think that'd be the best case scenario for his career. Per se, I think definitely I wouldn't put him on like 145 for this upcoming card. I don't think I would do that yet. I think we need to see him at least win a belt, and then I think after he wins a belt, he kind of needs to pull a Connor and like do like a belt versus belt for 145, something like that. But I think I would love to see him at 145 at some point.
Okay, that's interesting. I think he's a good fit in that bantamweight. Blake, you kind of agree with this whole sentiment?
I mean, I think it's way too early for him to be moving up to 145. I mean, he's still perfectly fine in 135. I mean, it's the division that he feels natural in. He doesn't have a hard time cutting down to that weight, and he's a bigger guy in that division. So why not kind of keep that size and reach advantage that he can have over those guys?
I'm saying after belt and like maybe a couple defenses.
So this is way later down.
Yeah, I'm talking about just like later in his career. I'm not talking about like pay-per-views from now. I'm talking about later on in his career. Like not like too late. Like some people do it too late. But I think after a couple of fights, maybe even if it's like a title shot, even if he wins or loses it, I think he should try the 145 waters.
All right, that's fair. What the fight to follow this up though would be is you'll see within these next 4 fights what we're kind of going with. This is going to be a card that's going to take place after the few months without fighting. So this card has to have payoffs, and what better way to have payoffs than between guys that have bad blood between each other? And so this second fight is one of the biggest, if not the biggest, bad blood fight right now. Besides the Ferguson in Khabib. Maybe it rivals one of the other fights we have up here as well. But this is going to be a featherweight bout between number 2 ranked Brian Ortega and number 4 ranked Chan Sung Jung, or the Korean Zombie. Now, this is a fight where they're actually going to have to fight each other in the octagon and not just have Ortega go after some dude's translator and some wannabe rapper.
He's not really a wannabe rapper. You know what I'm saying? He's a K-pop star. You know what I'm saying? K-pop star. Don't get us canceled by a whole bunch of teenage female girls, man.
Bro,
we need the biggest audience we can get.
Oh, we can't put this on Twitter now because we know that there's some rabid fans.
We're gonna get
K-pop people.
I don't even know the guy's name, but I know he's in K-pop, and I know
he's in K-pop. Oh boy,
I know teenage girls love him.
We just opened up a can of worms. That's going to be the end of us already, huh?
You just opened up the death trap, the unwritten rule podcast. Never talk bad about K-pop.
Damn it. Well, that's it, folks. We're going to wrap up after this one.
Hey, calling it quits.
We know why that fight would be interesting, though, because this is like, let's just highlight it real quick.
Yes.
They were already scheduled to fight. A pullout happened. That already gets people pissed off. They miss out on money. Accusations start flying around, and for whatever reason, Korean Zombie has been a lot more active on social media in the recent times than he has been in the past. A guy that has not
Zombie active on social media, or has it been his manager and translator?
That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. A guy that doesn't speak English fluently has been a lot more active on social media with English only captions, and so it's been suspect to say the least. And then follow that up. The most recent pay-per-view, we get a K-pop star got slapped in the face by an MMA fighter, who just so happens to be Brian Ortega, and the K-pop star is a Korean dude, obviously, who is homies with Korean Zombie. So I mean, boom, it's already huge. Mm-hmm. So I'm already like, man, these guys need to punch each other in the face.
My best take on that whole situation was Joe Rogan when he said that guy doesn't speak English. What could he have said to piss off Brian Ortega?
Yeah, like it's the weirdest beef, but like somehow it satisfies. Like it'll satisfy.
No, and this is one thing. Brian Ortega's last fight was a while ago. What was his last fight? That scrap against Max Holloway.
I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, it was like over a year ago now, but that fight was phenomenal in itself. That was Brian Ortega's first loss in his career. This was the late December fight night in South Korea that this fight was supposed to happen with. Brian Ortega pulled out. Then you had Chan Sung Jung. He got pulled. Sorry, I'm blanking on this one, but to say what I was going to say is that this fight was so hyped, so anticipated. At least maybe not the casuals, but all the people that really knew what these guys can bring to the table. Everyone wanted to see this scrap between the two because we knew it was going to be in my band bloodbath. It was going to be something phenomenal inside the octagon, and this is a beef that's been building, as you said, Blake. And I think it's time to have once they can finally put each other in the octagon. And not in the back area of arenas, not against a rapper and his friend. I'm talking about putting these two fighters together.
K-pop star Ross, come on, Jesus, he's not a rapper.
K-pop, son, K-pop.
The K-pop star. Damn, we're in America. We this American.
That's why we call it K-pop. It'd just be pop if we weren't in America.
But I'm saying, my point is, put these two in the octagon. Have them try to murder each other inside the octagon, and let's see who gets their hand raised at the end. I want to see this fight.
I want to see Korean Zombie knock Brian Ortega out with the upward elbow and then call out Yair Rodriguez.
Why stop at the upward elbow? We know what else is in Chan Sung Jung's arsenal.
Why would he call out Yair? Yair Rodriguez. That's right. He knocked him out.
With the upward elbow.
Oh, dude. I was like, wait, he already beat him. And I was like, wait, no, he didn't.
Right?
I knocked his ass out in the last seconds. That's right. I totally forgot about that for a second.
Hey, the first thrown punch, Korean Zombie should land a slap. First throw should be the
Stockton slap him.
Just slap the
Korean K-pop slap him.
The K-pop slap.
Give him the K-pop slap.
We're cultured out here, guys. We know about K-pop. Follow us, man. We know K-pop. All
them
songs. Hey, wait till we finna release a diss album on all them K-pop star. Watch.
Maybe not. Third fight of the night. Let's move away from the K-pop, shall we? We've had bantamweight now. We've had featherweight. Let's move into one of two welterweight scraps of the night. This is something that wasn't really supposed to happen. It was supposed to be a couple weeks ago. It was supposed to be UFC London, Leon Edwards, Tyron Woodley. Tyron Woodley is the number 1 ranked fighter in the welterweights, where we have Leon Edwards number 4. This is going to be one hell of a scrap. This is going to be Leon Edwards' home country. He's supposed to have this giant crowd behind him. Obviously, that fell through. But what happened during the lead up to this is that Leon didn't want to fight, but Woodley and still wanted to scrap. And then the guy who stepped in to talk about this and to try to save the card, and now they're trying to help. They're trying to see if they can lend their talents to help save UFC 249. Is number 1 ranked Tyron Woodley, as I mentioned, and the guy who stepped in is number 2 ranked Colby Covington, guy who's obviously not shy when it comes talking about some stuff.
He has a very big mouth.
When it's not wired shut, that is. But
anymore.
Well, no. He said that. He said it was broken. Then he goes and says it wasn't broken, and then who knows with this guy?
It looked pretty broken to me.
I ain't no doctor. But
nobody sits there with their jaw dangling like that in a fight. and it says my jaw's not broken.
Quite. But so of course we're assuming 249 is going to happen. So everyone wants this fight. I haven't talked to someone. I haven't seen anyone on Twitter who doesn't want to see these two go at it. We have a number 1 against the number 2 for the number 1 contender. And it would be a phenomenal fight between the two. I think stylistically, it's a great matchup. I think personality-wise, it's a great matchup. It is two guys that got beef now, so it's going to be a fiery matchup. And I think you put yeah, right. So that's why we want to see this fight. You guys have sentiments about this one?
Yeah, I mean, I've been wanting to see this fight for a while now. Back when Woodley was still the champion, I wanted to see this fight, and Covington had won the interim title. I wanted to see this fight. So this fight's been coming, I feel like, a long time. And I think that it fits well on this card, just because, we want to have as many good, well-skilled people on the mics that we can. And I think the build up to this fight, we're probably not going to have as much of a lead up. So it will take a lot of talent and natural skills, I think, to kind of draw a bigger audience to this card. So I think that Covington versus Woodley would be a great way to have some natural, what's the word I'm looking for here? It's not fake, like this is real beef. This is beef that's been brewing in the pot, they've been marinating this. Blood. Yeah. It's not artificial.
Nah, this isn't some people trying to promote a fight. This isn't what was it?
No
was
additives.
It Bisping and in GSP that had the fake beef going into their fight to try to hype it up a little bit?
That was weird. That was just weird.
GSP,
I don't know what
Bisping still made it work though, because he's so damn funny. But
if
GSP
it wasn't
was
for
weird.
Bisping, man, GSP trying to force that he actually is angry with someone, coming from a guy that one of his biggest insults of all time was telling someone, "I am not impressed by your performance."
Yeah,
come on, man.
I am not impressed by your performance.
We're not buying the beef from him, but with a guy like Colby Covington, Tyron Woodley, we could buy the beef. Not only if they're trying to make it seem like they got beef, but these dudes actually have beef. Long time in the making, and I think great middle of the road fight right there. Keeping the energy up through the card, because next the fight we're probably going to have, if you're going to have that welterweight fight right there, this is going to be, it was number one against number two. Obviously, that's going to be for the number one contender. So, what better way to follow up the number one contender spot for the welterweight fight by having the welterweight championship fight and seeing which winner of the first fight and the second fight, see who's going to be fighting each other in a number of months after this. So, this is been in the talks. This is also another thing that has been trying to put on this presumably cursed UFC 249 card that we don't even know if it's still going to happen. According to Dan, it is. We have no idea where it's going to happen.
Honestly, just call it UFC 249.5 just so it doesn't get cursed again.
You know what? Whatever works at this point. Do we have to like go to a witch doctor or something like that to get the little curse taken off?
Just put UFC asterisk 249. That's
so it's not actually. I like. But this is a fight that has been all but confirmed. This is a fight that's going to happen. It's just a when and a where. There is no if anymore. And this is the Kamaru Usman fight against Jorge Masvidal. Usman is the guy that took the jaw away from Colby Covington back in December. Jorge Masvidal, a guy who was my fighter of the year in 2019, the guy that pretty much saved his career with one flying knee, is what he did right there. And there's still bad blood. We remember bad blood. Woodley and Covington, or going back to Brian Ortega, Chen Sung Jung, they had, at least their crew had an altercation in the back of arena. Now we have a guy like Kamaru Usman and Jorge Masvidal that have had we'll put scrap in quotation marks. They had like a little altercation, a little shoving match at Super Bowl in Media Row, a yelling match, not even a shoving match. They had an altercation in Media Row from Super Bowl 53. And I think it's time to have this fight. What better time to have it on a card like this?
In my opinion, I think, and you guys might not agree, you guys might agree, I think Kamaru Usman is the most underrated champion in the UFC roster right now. I feel like a lot of people look past him and the other people around him and in that division, and like people are more like, oh, Jorge Masvidal, the Tyron Woodley, the Colby Covingtons, they like them because they talk. And Kamaru Usman, up to this point, before like the Colby Covington and Jorge Masvidal thing, they kind of made him talk. Before this, it was kind of more just he called people out, he fought people, he made his way up to the top, and he's kind of destroyed people up to this point. And I feel like it's very underrated of how he's gone through people in the division. Like even like he's won a couple. I mean, he's won a good amount by decision, but like if you look at the other guy after the decision, they just look like drained, and he looks like he can go a whole another like 5 rounds.
You know what? I'm not going to argue. I'm not going to argue with you on that one. I think. Well, maybe I'll argue a little bit. He might not be the most underrated. I think the most underrated is Henry Cejudo. I don't think that people give enough credit for it. But Usman, you definitely have a point with Kamaru Usman. He's boring, but man, that guy's he's just a winner at the end of the day.
I feel like most of his fights, I wouldn't say boring.
Well,
but
no,
I would
not
say
his
they're
fights,
more,
but at least his talking. His outside the octagon as a person, he can't promote a fight for crap.
Like his talking is more.
No,
it's very straightforward. It's just like, I'm gonna punch your face, and you're not gonna be able to do anything about it.
He's a real businessman. Usman's personality, Blake. I don't know if you could probably agree on this. He's more old school, where they didn't have this giant lip. There's not a bunch of trash talking. It's 2 dudes that they're putting together, and they're going to smash each other's faces in, and then have a winner.
Yeah, I mean, the only thing that works against Usman is he's just not the most exciting fighter to watch all the time. And his Covington fight, that was what I think everybody was waiting for. You know, like he really had his shining moment, I felt like, in that. And not to take anything away from his Woodley performance, but that just wasn't really an entertaining fight to me. It was just he just performed really well, but it just wasn't fun to watch.
Yeah, and there is a difference. There is a difference between those two.
Yeah, the Woodley fight, I feel like it was more. I feel like people kind of underrated that fight. I feel like people were kind of like, "Oh, this is a boring fight," but for like the non-casual, just straight up people into MMA in general, they were just in awe of how he just pretty much
dominated.
Was a very dominant champ, and he made him look like nothing.
Yeah, but to Blake's points, there's a difference between being entertaining and being dominant. You can say that for literally 99.9% of Khabib Nurmagomedov's fights. They're not entertaining. But from a performance standpoint, it is very impressive.
It's impressive
on just how dominant he is. But
absolutely.
I think that's a great example, Blake. I love your point about that. I totally agree.
I know this isn't realistic, but I would love to say Kamaru Usman at least wrestle against Khabib at some point, because they're both their wrestling. They're like
I'm sure they already have. They have the same manager.
Yeah, I know they have. So I'm like, but I want to see it. I know
we
they
need to get him in the ring. Chael Sonnen, doesn't he have a what?
The Underground.
I can't remember.
Yeah.
Yeah, isn't it Submission Underground?
Submission Underground. Yeah.
Have a little bout.
I know those
celebrity bout.
They would never talk bad about each other, so we don't know who's
their
won.
Family.
But I know one of them is probably destroying the other, and they just don't talk about it because they're family. But
I'm gonna go with the one that wrestled a bear when he was a kid.
I know, but Usman's big.
Dude, you know how much Khabib cuts? He's huge too.
Yeah, but
does he really cut that much?
Yeah, I forget.
He walks around like the 200s, I heard.
There's no way.
No, he walks around like 200.
Jeez. How the hell does he make that cut?
If you look at him in his face during fights, or not fights, but like weigh-ins and stuff like that, and you look at him on a normal basis, you can see the big difference of weight. And I feel like that's why people don't realize Kamaru Usman's cut is because he doesn't look that much smaller, because he's a muscly dude, but like he's a big. He walks around pretty freaking big. He walks around I forget. He said something about it too. I have to look that up. But Kamaru Usman walks around, I didn't think like he's like heavyweight. He walks around like a heavyweight.
That's wild to me. But getting back to the fight, what would you guys see most? What would most excite you for this Usman and Masvidal fight?
I think Masvidal is just, he's earned his dues in this sport. You know, he had a phenomenal 2019. Let's put him up there and give him the title shot, give him his shining moment, you know, and let him have his chance at glory. I think it's a great showcase between two guys that are both supremely talented in different areas. And it's a classic matchup of a guy that's going to be, more superior in, clinch work and ground game, and then a guy that and just overall probably octagon control, and then a guy that's going to have the, penchant for knocking somebody out. So I think it would be really interesting for everybody. And again, Masvidal, super talented on the microphone. Usman, we'll see. But I think Masvidal would make it interesting, and all the people that would be around him, like, let's just recap now. We'll have Woodley and Covington there. Masvidal doesn't like those two very much.
Mm-mm.
We're going to have Brian
think the
Ortega
welterweight
and
division
Han
likes each
Sung-Jung. That's great. Sean O'Malley and Marlon Vera are going to be there. So I already like all the people that we have so far. These just seem like a bunch of personalities.
That'd be fire. And
Hey,
we're not even talking about who's in our main event too.
Wouldn't it be great if? We haven't talked about who's in our main event.
That's what I'm saying. That's why I want to do a recap.
Comment. I'll save my comment after we say.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So Blake, you recap just the guys we got on this list in personalities: Sugar Sean, Brian Ortega, Chan Sung Jun's friend, the K-pop dude, Woodley Covington, Usman Masvidal. And to the coup de grace to this card, to really put the bow on the top of the present, the cherry on top of the ice cream sundae. Okay,
you guys actually put cherries on top of your ice cream sundaes? I don't. I kind of just take it off if it's there.
Well, to be fair, I can't remember the last time I had an ice cream sundae. Now I really want one.
Me too.
I usually go with the milkshake.
Milkshakes.
Yeah, the milkshake's always a good one.
Milkshake. And to your point, the milkshake always has a cherry on top.
Yeah, exactly. The milkshake always has a cherry top, but
the milkshake has to have the whipped cream and the cherry. Has to. It's a must. And also, if it's really fancy one, you have the chocolate drizzle over the whipped cream.
Some chocolate flakes, bro.
Oh, yeah. Chocolate flakes.
Have you guys tried the mocha shake from Smash Burger? You guys have to try.
There's no Smash Burger. But there's a happy
Smash Burger.
Let's get back on topic. Bro.
All right. A little off topic.
For dessert, I had yogurt in the protein bar. Get the hell out of here.
So what's the main event?
What I'm saying, the main event. This is going to be. We're assuming here. It's going to be a while until Khabib Nurmagomedov can fight again, but we're still going to have a Tony Ferguson scrap. But Tony Ferguson is not going to be fighting Khabib. He's not going to be fighting Justin Gaethje. He's not going to be fighting Dustin Poirier. He is going to be fighting the notorious one, the number 3 ranked lightweight fighter in the world, Conor McGregor. As we were alluding to, this press conference would be off the hook. And then you throw a guy like just a unhinged lunatic psychopath, Tony Ferguson, on the mic, who we never know what we're going to get from him. And we do kind of know what we're going to get from Conor McGregor when he gets on the mic, but it's amazing every single time he says something.
We don't know based off of we don't know if he's going to go with that nice Conor again or if he's going back. Lately on Twitter with the last Tony Ferguson and Khabib stuff, we've seen a lot of old Conor. Conor, like, talking wise.
Well, old Conor, what happened today is when Khabib was doing his whole Instagram live thing, Conor McGregor said, "Let me join in." So I think we might get a return of the old Conor McGregor. But Blake, this was something we were talking about in last week's discussion show. Possible dream fights. Your realistic current dream fight is Ferguson and McGregor. In here, I think we're gonna get it. So, if this is your dream fight, tell us again why you want it to be a dream fight and just why this should be the main event over a championship fight.
It's always a tough call when you have a McGregor who's not a champion and you have actual champions, because the UFC is notorious for always favoring the champions in the main events over the other, even fighters that might be a bigger draw but just don't have a belt currently. The only problem is Conor McGregor is at this point now to where he's his own entity, basically. He's his own, he's just his own supernova. So he can kind of say, like, I'm not going to be anything less than the main event. And if this was going to happen, realistically, Conor is going to be the main event. Mm-hmm. So the reason I want to see this fight between Ferguson and McGregor, I think it's just really important to the lightweight rankings still. If the Khabib and Ferguson fight can't happen, then this is this is definitely the second best. This is
next best thing. Yeah.
Yeah, this is like one. I would say Ferguson and Habib is 1A, and this is McGregor versus Ferguson is 1B. Because I'd say this is potentially going to be a way more entertaining fight. I mean, these are two guys that are not going to be scared to stand up and throw down. So I don't think there's going to be too many takedowns in this fight. You know what I mean?
Not at all.
No, there might be some shoulders, there might be some kicks. There's going to be blood,
some elbows.
That's for damn sure. Some elbows. And it's probably going to be Conor first.
Honestly, I don't even know.
Yeah, Jen, what your take on this fight, man? Why do you think that this would be the 1B fight to do and a great alternative to that Habib Ferguson fight?
I think this is more of the skill of the matchup. They're both strikers, but it's kind of the one thing that has kind of been Ferguson's, I wouldn't say issue, but biggest problem is he does get rocked, but he's fast at recovering. And I said this before in one of our older shows, is Conor's pressure, even when we saw in the Cowboy fight, even though that was a very short fight, Conor put it on Cowboy. After he stunned him, he was right there. And Ferguson, he's good at getting away and kind of getting that distance to where he can recover. But Conor is reaching distance and controlling the ring. And if he does stun Ferguson, I don't 100% know if Ferguson will be able to get away or if Conor's going to like keep him right there in front of him and piece him up and finish him there. Or Ferguson's going to land something big and then we have a big back and forth. There's so many ways it can go. Ferguson takes him to the ground and tries to take him on down there. I don't think that, I don't think that'll work. I think Conor, it's very underrated how good Conor handled Habib's wrestling for the most part in that fight.
That's fair.
I feel like it's very underrated, and people will say Habib is the best wrestler, and probably in the UFC right now. And I'm not really afraid of Ferguson or anybody else other than Habib taking Conor down. So I think it'd have to be Ferguson would have to stand up, and that's what makes this fight so interesting. Is they both have to stand up.
Yeah, that's a very fair point. I would love to see this fight, not only for the implications, of course, because this is obviously going to be between a guy that has been booked against Habib 5 times now and has not fought Habib 5 times now. And you have a guy who has fought Habib once and has lost, got tapped out, but both these guys absolutely despise Nurmagomedov. And I think Conor has a bigger beef with him just because it may be a little more outspoken. Is more of like a personal thing. Ferguson's beef with him is probably a little more professional just because they haven't been able to fight. That's like one of the biggest points in aspects to their whole rivalry. I'm not trying to put down. I'm not trying to put down the welterweight division, but why this would be a main event is because I think. Well, this is real. The UFC, over the past couple of years, whether we like it or not, has gone away from rankings, has gone away from titles, and it's all about money. This fight is going to sell more. You can't tell me that Masvidal and Usman for the welterweight strap is going to outsell and outpromote a lightweight fight, not title fight, between Ferguson and McGregor. Tell me that. You can't make the argument because you just can't. It's not an argument. There's no footing for that. Anything Conor McGregor is going to make more money. But when you throw Ferguson into that equation as well, that's going to make even more money. So really the thing is why a lot of people wouldn't like the fact that a non-title fight is main eventing over a title fight. But let's be realistic, guys. It's the UFC. It's Dana White. Dana White is the best president in all sports, but it's about the money. It's about the money, and that's why this whole thing would happen, you know. But
for sure,
there is a top 5, right? But before we wrap up, I just want, since this is all hypothetical, and if it's hypothetical, we might as well give our damn predictions on who's winning these fights. Okay, so we're going to go from first fight to last fight.
One last thing for the when we were talking about the press conference before we mentioned Conor, I was gonna say when we put the icing on top of the cake, and then that cherry too is it Sean O'Malley says something, and Connor says, "Who the fuck is that guy?" perfect press conference. He says that.
Man, no. Before we get on that great point, that press conference, let alone the fights for this, but let's just talk about the short lead up and the press conference for this card. It would be the greatest press conference in the history of UFC. It'd be the best thing ever. Just alone, if we don't even need the other 4 fights, but if we just have Ferguson and McGregor talking on the mic to each other, that might be as good as damn fight itself. But let's go through 1 to 5 to wrap this thing up. Sugar Sean O'Malley versus number 14 Marlon Vera. Who's winning?
Sugar.
Jalen? I think we have a little freeze with him, but he's probably going to say Sugar. I'm in coma now. Is Sugar's winning that? I'm going to go Sugar with that one as well. Second fight, Ortega, Chan Sung Jung, the Korean Zombie. It's a little harder one. Blake.
This one's hella hard.
It's a hard one, right?
I'm gonna go with Korean Zombie.
Okay,
that's a good choice.
Nice to have you back, Jalen.
Cut out there for a second.
This one.
I think
we chose Sugar for you, by the way.
Yeah, no, I was gonna go Sugar. I'm glad you guys chose.
Yeah, that's you.
This
is a hard one though.
My pick, I think I would have to go Korean Zombie for this one, just because I think Korean Zombie kind of has that same pressure that Holloway had against Ortega, that kind of stunted Ortega. So I kind of think that same pressure, if Ortega hasn't changed up his game plan from last time, I think Zombie takes this one. And I think Zombie has a little bit more power than Holloway. I think he'd probably be able to put away Ortega a little bit faster.
You know what? I'm gonna disagree with you guys as much as I would love to say Korean Zombie. Man, Ortega, he's a bad mofo right there. He's a guy. He's a scrapper. He's a hardcore fighter, and this guy can take a lick. He can get punched a lot, and we saw in the Holloway fight, he can get punched a lot. He could bleed a lot, but he'll still have that power in the late rounds. I think unless Korean Zombie busts out of the twister, Brian Ortega would take this one. But you never know. That twister's always on the board, what it seems like. Oh, I loved it. Twisters are fun. That's the funnest way to see a fight finish.
The first time I saw a twister, I was like, what the fuck is going on?
Man, I can't. Man, I haven't been putting a twister, but I feel like a correctly applied twister would hurt the hell out of your back and just entire body. Third fight, we're going to have the welterweight scrap. Number 1, Tyron Woodley, and number 2, Colby Covington, who's taking this one, boys. Okay, man. If no one wants to talk, I'll step in. Because Colby Covington is taking this fight. He's going to take it on the mic, and he's going to take it on that canvas inside that steel cage. It's going to be Colby. You can't. His pressure. Colby Covington might have the best pressure in all of UFC. I think if he didn't get knocked out late in that Kamaru Usman fight, late in the 5th round, I think he was going to win that fight. So I think Colby, he's going to be able to take this one against Woodley. Sure, you guys disagree.
I think Woodley could win it if he lands that kind of big shot. But I think if it goes to the cards, I think it's either going to go the same exact way the Kamaru Usman fight went for Woodley, or Woodley's going to knock him out. That's how I see it going out. It's either going to be a Woodley knockout, or it's going to be Colby just holding on to him and taking it out.
What you guys say, Blake?
I think that the more likely situation, the more likely outcome for this fight is Covington winning by decision, just because I think that he's going to be able to push the pace and mix it up well enough to kind of have a similar game plan that Leon Edwards had. I mean, you can't discredit Covington. He is a world-class fighter. That guy knows how to employ his game plan to his benefit and stick to it, and also can adapt.
You can hate the
fly.
guy, but you gotta respect the guy at the same time.
He's world class, and so I think the most likely scenario would be him cruising to a decision, or like you said, Jalen, I do agree. Woodley always has that knockout power,
puncher's chance.
He has that puncher's chance. So you never know. I mean, he could go out there and just smoke Covington in the first round. You You never
I
know.
think the only way Woodley would win by decision is if he kind of just stunned Colby and then kind of just stayed on him. But Colby's a tough dude, so I think Colby would stay in it. But I think the only way he would win by decision if he kind of just stunned him a couple of times and kept staying on him.
That's a high level
early
fight,
rounds.
though. That's a really high level
definitely
fight.
a really good fight.
Dude, I mean, most of these fights are going to would be phenomenal. Most of them are going to be toss-ups. If all of them go toss-ups, maybe all of them are toss-ups besides the Sugar Sean, where he has a noticeable chance. But the co-main of the night is going to be for the welterweight championship, Kamaru Usman and Jorge Masvidal, and we're going to have a new welterweight champion in the world. Jorge Masvidal is taking this one. He's going to be riding that momentum. He's going to be riding that giant wave ever since he took Ben Askren. Jorge Masvidal is walking out with strap. No?
I don't know about that one.
I
think I'm gonna have to severely disagree with that one because I think Kamaru Usman is. I think he's coming on right now. I think he's kind of having his kind of upward trajectory now, where he's probably just gonna have a little bit of time of dominating people. It's gonna be really tough for Masvidal to go in there and just smoke a guy like Usman. Usman's a big dude. He can. I mean, you could tell that last fight with Covington. Covington hit him a lot of times
and hard. He hit
Usman
him
was
hard.
good. He's all good. He looked like he got a little bruise here and there, but he looked fine. Yeah. So I mean, I don't think Masvidal is gonna have a chance to knock out Usman like he's had in the past few fights.
Yeah, my thing is I'm a really big Jorge Masvidal fan, and I have nothing against him. If he was to win this fight, I wouldn't be mad. But my thing is, we haven't really seen him against top 5 competition. We saw him against Ben Askren, who we didn't know, like, even that Robbie Lawler fight was very questionable. He won that. And then after that, he didn't.
He's a specialist.
He lost to Damian Maia and all that stuff too. And Damian Maia, is no offense, he was good back in his heyday, but right now Damian Maia is not top level competition.
It was like the way he lost too was just even worse, you know.
So I just think we haven't seen Jorge Masvidal against top, other than like Darren Till.
I think he did a really good job of capitalizing.
Yeah, he really capitalized. It was the fashion of which he finished people, and then like his whole persona that he kind of took on.
Yeah.
It's
time for the hype. So the hype train is about to be derailed, is what you're saying.
I think that they're both pressure fighters, and I think Kamaru Usman's a better wrestler, and Jorge's he lands punches on you and keeps going. But I think we saw last fight, Colby Covington kept pushing on Kamaru. Kamaru just pushed back. And I don't think Jorge's going to out-wrestle Kamaru. I mean, I don't see him out-wrestling Kamaru. I don't think he's going to out-pressure Kamaru. It would have to be just like a stand-up just parade.
I think the main event would be the closest fight on the scorecards, at least if it doesn't go to finish. And so who's win? Conor McGregor, Tony Ferguson, who's actually going to walk away from this fight with their hand raised ultimately?
I think Conor McGregor takes this fight too. I think that the most logical situation would be McGregor TKO. I just don't see Tony withstanding the pressure that McGregor's going to bring forward, especially if he comes out like he did against Cowboy and is just on one again. Because you can just see he switches it up. He gives you different looks. He knows how to play. He just knows how to play the game and just set people up. It's beautiful to watch, really. If you guys haven't had a chance to go watch the detail with Daniel Cormier on Conor McGregor's most recent fight with Cowboy,
beautiful episode.
He goes into really good detail about like the shoulder strikes and just how he's setting everything up and the way that he's moving, like his footwork. I'm kind of going off on a tangent right now. Anyway, I think McGregor is just...
It's okay. It's what people should expect from us by now.
I just think that I think that he would just display, again, he's on another level, and that would just really just skyrocket that path towards a rematch with Habib.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think I would
John,
also have
you
Conor
kind of
winning.
share the same sentiments.
Yeah, I think I would have Conor winning also. I think like I said earlier, Ferguson gets rocked pretty much every fight at some point. He gets rocked or touched by a good shot almost every fight. And I don't know, Conor's been known for that death touch, and everyone's felt it. And I think it's very underrated. Even in his last fight with Habib, he landed a good amount of shots on Habib. In that, I think it was what was it, the third round where they stood up. I
Yeah.
think Conor he did look off. Conor looked really off in that fight, but I think he was landing pretty well in that third round. And I feel like everyone has kind of felt that the technique that Conor has is very underrated. And I just feel like if he touches Tony, I don't think it's going to be instant just KO right there. But I think if he touches Tony, he's not going to allow Tony to get that space and time to recover. I feel like he's going to touch Tony. Tony's going to get away for a bit, and then Conor's going to land again. And then Tony's going to not crumple, kind of drop and try, get on his back. And then Conor's just going to land too much. And I feel like that's how that would go. Yeah.
I'm okay with sound like maybe going a little outlandish, maybe having these hot takes, bold predictions, but it's kind of my thing on this show, so I'm going to disagree with you guys and say that Tony Ferguson retains that number one spot, and he's going to take this fight not by knockout, not by decision, but by submission. He's going to take Conor McGregor to the ground, and he's going to finish him in one of his submissions. It could be rear naked. It could be. I wouldn't be surprised to see Tony pull out something like an omoplata on Conor McGregor. Just something super unorthodox, something stupid that no one ever expects.
I thought you were going to say Darce. If you would have said Darce, I would have agreed with you.
Darce.
The Darce. I don't see him getting Conor in a position.
Okay, here we go. He's he's not pulling out either of those two. He's not going to pull out the famed twister. He's pulling out the Peruvian necktie. He's going to finish Conor McGregor with the Peruvian necktie. How's that for bold prediction if you guys want? Tony Ferguson be a Peruvian necktie.
If he finishes Conor, is going to be either with the rear naked choke, the guillotine, or a triangle. Those are the only three submissions I see him getting Conor in at all. But I don't know if he gets there.
All right. How about here? I know that that was my prediction. Is Ferguson by submission? Unrealistically, Peruvian necktie. Let me go even more unrealistically. Let's be just to wrap before we end the show. Just the boldest take you. That one. That heel hook and lock in immediately and finish him. Something.
No, if we're going really outlandish, I'm going with the banana split by Tony Ferguson. And he's gonna pull the banana split on you. Have you heard about that one? You haven't heard about the banana split, Ross?
I do not believe so. Blake, have you heard about the banana split?
It's a very rare submission.
I think so.
I think the first one that actually happened. The first one that happened in the UFC actually happened last year, I believe. It's happened a couple times in more lower level, but I forget the exact form you have to get, but it's pretty much splitting your opponent's legs into a full-on split in such a way that you start to feel your scrotum almost ripping apart, which causes you to tap. We've had one in the UFC, but we've had a couple in lower level pro MMA.
That'd be awful.
Look it up. If you haven't heard,
I'm gonna look that up now.
We're just saying outlandish predictions, like the most outlandish prediction we could finish.
Outlandish. Yes.
I would say a spinning cartwheel elbow KO by Tony Ferguson.
He's gonna trip Conor McGregor, and then while Conor's on the ground, he's gonna spin into a cartwheel and Hulk Hogan elbow drop.
I was thinking he literally just jumps into the air and does a spinning cartwheel and elbows him in the face.
Bold take. We've all seen the thing that Tony Ferguson has had in his hands.
Tony Ferguson, every guy.
Been recently with those gloves. Tony Ferguson is going to whip out a baseball from his cup and start hitting Conor McGregor with the baseball.
It's me great.
Let's
McNuggets.
go. Let's go a little WWE on this. Conor McGregor is going to get hit and get put up against the cage. He's going to reach through the cage and be handed by Dylan Dennis, Irish. What's that thing? That Irish little pole. A little Finley used to have it back in the old WWE days. and he's gonna just smack him across the head with it, throw it out the ring while the ref's distracted, and then he's gonna submit it with the rear naked choke, and then Irish midget is gonna run across.
I hate that so much. You know, we up until like these last few minutes, we were sounding pretty realistic. We're realistic with the card. We weren't just making these stupid fight predictions of what could happen. But the last few minutes, we really got the rails.
Extra couple minutes.
Man, if you guys are still listening, I hope you know we're joking. We're not that high yet.
If one of these things happens, though, I want my
money.
We're
not joking.
We're
not joking.
Money.
No. Man, but with all that stupid ass stuff being said, we want to thank you all for joining us on this week's discussion show. Of course, this was us predicting what card the UFC would make if we had a few months off from fighting due to this global pandemic. And then we got put together a card to help the fans, to celebrate the fans, celebrate the fighters, have all these beefs come to an end, close a book on this, get rolling with another months with fights. Of course, I've been your host, Ross. I'm joined alongside UFC correspondent Blake Campbell and not so bald, almost a full head of hair now, Jalen Johnson.
Yeah.
So congrats on that, homie. If you guys are longtime listeners, you've known Jalen. His nickname used to be the Bald Beast, not so bald anymore. But that's going to do it for you guys. Of course, you can check out all of our content, all of our fun stuff on www.thefourthandlong.com. Find us on Twitter at Fourth Long Radio, Instagram, Fourth and Long Radio, Spotify, YouTube, all that fun stuff. But this is our weekly discussion show. This is the fights that are going to happen, 100% guaranteed.
100%.
Without a doubt. We saw it to the future. We got it right. It's going to happen.